Caleb from Brownells here, and in today's video we're going to be building a LMT MARS-H in a 16-inch 308.
Oh, I am left.
Yep, I see. Good call.
Keep shooting at the dirt. I can pick it up. Little high, little left.
Okay.
So this particular build setup is more of a DMR, designated marksman type rifle or battle rifle. It could go either way with that, depending on what optic you put on it. So this one's leaning more towards the DMR because we're using a Nightforce NX8, and this is the 2.5 to 20 in a Spuhr mount. So the optic itself is already mounted in the mount and everything, so we don't have to mess with any of that. If you want a detailed video on how to mount an optic, we have plenty of that already out there, so go check that out. But with all that being said, let's just kind of jump right into the build, and I'll explain all the parts and pieces as we go through it. So first off, obviously we have our LMT MARS-H lower receiver, and it's a full ambidextrous lower. We do have some parts still to put in it, and some of the parts are already in it, but the only thing I changed from stock LMT was the actual mag catch button. We went with the forward controls design, and what we're going to do as far as the trigger goes is we're actually going to use the LMT two-stage match trigger because I haven't used one of those before, so I figured this was a perfect time to try it out. Okay, so let me just kind of get everything set up here. So like I said, we're going to start with the lower, so I'm going to use a lower vise block. And we're using a stripped lower, like I mentioned. And to set up the buffer system on an LMT MARS-H, you can actually use these three components here. So the reason I say that is because the LMT type setup is different than like your LR308, so like your DPMS, your Aero Precision, that kind of stuff. It does not use the same buffer system. So the way you would actually go about setting one up for this is you would take a A5 length receiver extension. So this is actually a Sons of Liberty Gunworks A5 length buffer tube. Okay, you can take one of these. Then you can take a standard AR308 buffer. So this is the Luth AR 308 buffer spring. I said buffer, I meant spring, excuse me. So standard AR308 buffer spring, but for the buffer, you actually use an AR-15, not AR-308, AR-15 H3 buffer. So that standard full-length carbine buffer. Okay, so just to reiterate, the three parts you need for a MARS-H, as far as the buffer system goes, is a A5 length buffer tube, or receiver extension, a rifle length AR-308 buffer spring, and an AR-15 H3 buffer. Alright, so those three components will get you where you need to be. Now, don't try to use an AR-308 carbine buffer because they are shorter and it's not going to work right. So it has to be the AR-15 one. Alright, so with all that being said, let's just keep moving along here. I'm going to go ahead and install my pivot pin. So I'm just going to take the LMT parts here, and I am working out of a LMT lower parts kit. This is where all my small parts came from, and it's pretty close to AR-15, except everything's just a little bit bigger. And I'm going to take a little bit of Brownells Action Lube Plus to act as an adhesive, just to help keep everything in place while I'm messing with other stuff here. I use some Starrett punches to help me out. Alright, and the pivot pin, and of course the detent. Alright, so the front one's in place. And the rear one we'll put in when we put our grip on. But let's go ahead and do that receiver extension, because we can go ahead and knock that out. Alright, so as I mentioned before, this is the Sons of Liberty Gunworks A5 length. And we're just going to start threading that on. Take that buffer, retainer, detent, and spring. Goes in the top hole there. And we're going to capture it. And just tighten that down. Take an AR wrench, tighten down this castle nut. And I'm just going to stake it real quick here. And we have an excellent video specifically on how to stake a castle nut, if that's something you're interested in, because I'm just going to kind of breeze through it here. And the punch I'm using is a Sons of Liberty Gunworks staking punch. This one I grabbed is the 40 degree. Here we go. And a good solid stake right there on top. And that is the only time it's okay, and I say this almost every video I stake something. That's the only time it's okay to have a stake well done. Alright, and then moving forward, let's go ahead and just drop in the buffer system itself while we got it here. So I have my spring, and I'll just place this stuff over there, and the buffer. And what I will do, I'm going to use a little bit of this Mag Slick. And this is just a dry film lubricant. And I like to use the dry film stuff on buffer springs and things like that, because it just helps keep everything a little bit cleaner. Alright, now let's go ahead and drop that fire control group in here. So it comes set up just like this, the springs and everything are already on it. So all we need to do is just drop our trigger down in there. Then we'll take a trigger pin. Install it. Nice. And I'm going to lubricate the contact points of that trigger real quick here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the hammer. And now we can drop the hammer in. And I know I'm breezing through this kind of quick here, especially for those of y'all who've never done this before. We have really good videos on how to build AR-15s, especially on our website, but the process for doing it on this gun and the AR-15 are pretty much the same. So don't hesitate to head on over there if you need a more detailed video. There we go. Okay. Now from here, I'm just going to rotate this and get ready to install the grip and this takedown pin I mentioned before. I'm just going to put a little bit of lubricant in that detent channel just to make things run a little smoother, and I will install that. The detent with a little bit of grease. right in the bottom, followed by the spring. And this is the ones for the takedown pin, not the selector. The selector one's going to go right there. And unlike the AR-15, this one comes in through the bottom, whereas your AR-15 would come in through the back under that end plate. Okay, so we'll just kind of stick the selector where it needs to go here. And it has to go in with the hammer cocked. Then we'll put on the opposite ambidextrous side here. And for that, I'm going to use a little bit of Loctite and a Allen key. And I know you can't see what I'm doing right now because it's on the other side, but I'm literally just tightening a screw. And I know you can use your imagination for that part. Alright. Okay, so moving on here. The grip we're using, this is the Magpul K2 XL. So I like the grip angle of the K2 because it's a little bit steeper of a grip angle than most other grips. But the real thing I like about it on this particular gun is that it's a lot wider than a standard grip. So this is great if you have bigger hands, especially if you're using a heavier firearm, because you just get more of a grip on it. So I like the bigger grips on heavier firearms for sure. Lighter ones, not so much, but this one, definitely. And it comes with a oil bottle. Okay, so I'm gonna get out my Brownells magnet tips here. And just get all of that ready to go. Take my selector spring. Alright, so selector spring, selector detent goes in the firearm, or receiver I should say. Then we'll push these together, being careful not to kink the springs. And tighten that down nice and snug. Put our bottom plate back on. And there we go. Now we can move on to putting the stock on. So the stock we're using for this particular setup is going to be the Magpul PRS Gen 2. And the big difference between the Gen 2 and Gen 1 is that your Gen 2 can install on carbine receiver extensions. You still can use a rifle receiver extension. They include an adapter for it, but obviously we're going on a carbine here. And I say carbine, it'll also, carbine and A5 length use the same adapter piece. So that's all we need. Alright, so remove the screw and both sides of your front piece here. Now this is going to slide on first. And if you look, there's these two wings on it. Those are going to be facing the back. Just slide this all the way up against your castle nut. Then you need to take this front body screw, and I loosen it about half a turn or a full turn will do. And then you slide this over that bottom rail and all the way forward. And then from here, take your locking pieces here, install them on the side. And there we go. And as you can see, I already flipped the sling loop on the back. For a left-handed shooter, it usually comes mounted on the other side, but it is of course reversible. Okay, now we need to retighten that body screw. There we go. And the stock is installed. And with this PRS stock, you can adjust the length of pull and the cheek height right here on the fly. Very easy to use. We're just going to set them both at 0 for now. And that's it for the lower receiver. We can now go ahead and move on to the upper receiver. So I'm going to get rid of this vice block for now. We're going to go ahead and use the Device Mark II by the Device Manufacturing. And this one is for the large frame platform. Alright, so we'll take our upper receiver, monolithic upper receiver, drop it in here, and lock it into place. You don't have to use this upper receiver fixture. You can use, whatever your favorite large frame 308 receiver fixture is, and it'll work just fine. Okay, so now we can actually just jump right into installing the barrel. So with this design set up, the barrels are quick change, so all we need to do is slide it in and then torque down the 2 bolts and we're good to go. And we also have the LMT tool this is their armor tool that helps us do this. But you don't have to use this tool. It's a standard Torx bit, and the torque for it is 140 inch-pounds. And the rear screw doesn't need to come all the way out, just that front one does. And you don't need to put any kind of grease or lubrication on here, but what I like to do is just take a little bit of oil, like rim oil, for example. Doesn't have to be rim oil. And I like to spray it down. And then take a rag and wipe off most of the excess. And that's just to make sure it is nice and corrosion resistant. So there we go, just like that. Basically just hydrating the metal, or that nitrate coating, if you will. Parkerizing, phosphate, that's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so we slide this on. Make sure your gas tube's aligned, it seats fully, and you should be able to see right through that hole in the front there. Because if you notice, there was a scallop in the bottom of that barrel extension, and this just goes right through it. So I'm going to snug up the front. Then I'm going to snug up the rear. I keep a magnet on the vise for holding small parts, and it just grabbed onto this thing. Okay. So with both of those snugged up, I'm going to go ahead and torque the front. There it goes. And then torque the rear. There we go. Okay, now the barrel gas system assembly, all that's installed. Nice and easy. So what I need to do now is get this standard flash hider off of here. And then we're going to install the SureFire 3-prong flash hider, because we are going to be installing a suppressor as well. So we got that, we got some rock set, we have some shims, we have a timing chart. Not going to worry about the ladder, we're just going to throw that down. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to degrease these threads. So I'm going to use a dry spot on my rack here. And this is just acetone in an acetone safe bottle. And I'm just going to spray all the threads. And while that dries, I'm going to move on to other stuff here. So I do have the LMT 308 iron sights, so we're going to go ahead and install those. So we'll take our front here and put that on the front. Who'd have guessed? And that just uses a slotted driver. So we'll just snug that up real nice. That's good. Do the same thing on the rear. I'm going to put them as far apart as I can. Boom. All right. Cool. Easy enough. Alright, and then we have other accessories and stuff we're going to be putting on here, but let's go ahead and finish up that muzzle device. Everything is looking like it's drying nice. So, 3-prong flash hider doesn't necessarily have to index perfectly, but I'm going to go ahead and try and index it to the 12 o'clock position, just so that my locking piece is on the bottom. So whenever I'm sliding the suppressor on, it just goes on the same way every time. I don't have to think about it. Alright, so I'm going to start with this green shim here. It's looking pretty good. Let me try one of the reds. Alright. And then one of these super thin ones, and we're good. I'll drop that one on the floor and then grab a new one, which is fine because I want to put this one against the barrel anyway. And now the rock set. And some of it's wanting to tear out of there, but that's okay. We've got plenty. All right. There we go. And And then the SOCOM 762 suppressor from SureFire is what we're throwing on here. And there we have it. Okay, let's go ahead and put on some more of the accessories here. So what we're using for a bipod, we're using the MDT. And this one in particular is the Brownells exclusive. That is a 17S mount. And then on that, we're using an Area 419 Arca mount. That's just all a long way to say we're using a Arca bipod. Okay, and then we have Arca adapters for the bottom of this handguard from Magpul. And we have two of them. I'm going to put one in the front and one in the rear if we decide we want to shoot off of a tripod, because they just balance better whenever they're in the rear. Okay, so see if I have enough room to flip this over here. All right, great. So M-LOK, we're just going to throw it right on the bottom here. If you want a really good video on how to install M-LOK accessories, we have got that video, so go check it out, because I know I'm just kind of breezing right through this. Alright, so there's one plate on there, and then the other. And it looks like that screw is going to hit the barrel in the back right there. So I have some options. I could either cut that screw down and mount it all the way in the back, which is what I may end up doing. Or I could just move it forward a little bit, because we don't want any screws hitting our barrel, because that's going to affect the potential accuracy of this rifle. So we don't want to do that. But I can move it half a slot forward. And have plenty of clearance. So that's probably what I'll do, just for the ease of everything. I'm just going to make sure it's not touching even with our barrel flex here. No, we got plenty of room there. Okay. And then, if I wanted to use this offhand, I could use that grip. But I think what I'm going to do here is pull this out. Go ahead and put my lower setup back in the vise here. Lowers back in. Take our charging handle. So this is the LMT ambidextrous charging handle. And I'll just take a bit of oil and lubricate this before I put it in. And we'll go ahead and lubricate our bolts as well. This is the LMT bolt. And we're just putting a little bit of oil on those high friction areas. Then we'll drop it onto our lower. There we go. Okay, and the reason I wanted to do that is so that I could see where my hand falls comfortably for use of that actual hand stop up front there. So if I go right there, that'll actually be perfect, which is really convenient because that's where my open slot is. So that's where I'm going to put it. Install one. Went a little too far with that one. There we go. And two. And the bipod. So I will say, when I install a bipod, I don't like to put it right up against the end of the handguard. I like to put it back a little bit. And this one is actually, so the front of this handguard, let me get these legs out the way, kind of swoops down a little bit, so I don't have to worry about that with this. But on a lot of other handguards, the Arca will run right up to the end of it. And I don't like to put my handguard up there because if I'm shooting off of a barricade, then I'm either resting my barrel or my suppressor on the barricade instead of the handguard. And we like to rest the handguard when we're shooting. So this will actually be fine exactly where it is. So we'll leave it right there. Close that up. Our optic. Let's see what room we got here. This is the Spuhr mount. We'll actually mount right there. It looks like a pretty good spot. It looks like my eye relief is going to be almost perfect. And we'll just tighten that down. So if you notice, there is a little bit of play front and rear. We want to push all the way forward and then lock down, just like so. Okay, and get that out the way. We have one last thing to install, and that is the Magpul M-LOK panels. And we should only need 4 of these, so we'll have some leftovers. So you don't need to go crazy and use all of them if you don't need them. Just use what you need. There we go. It's okay to let your barrel breathe. If you cover up all the M-LOK slots, then you kind of defeat the purpose of having all those M-LOK slots in the first place. Alright, so right there is a good spot. And I'm going to do it symmetrical on both sides, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. So we're going to do one right there. And these just press into place. Alright, nice and easy. One more and then we are just about done. Okay, so alright, so if we needed to shoot offhand, which we definitely don't plan on it with this length of pull and everything, but if we needed to, we could. Alright, nice. So, let's get this kind of set up here. Alright, all of that's looking good. Now we can just do a quick function check. And with this overhead microphone, it always sounds drier than it actually is. Like if I go back and listen to this, I'm going to be like, man, that gun's dry. I don't know why that is. Some audio expert out there knows, I'm sure. But, alright, so we'll do that. Put it on fire. Pull the trigger. That's a nice 2-stage trigger too, by the way. I'll cycle it, check for that reset, put it on safe, and nothing. So we're good. Okay, so now all we need to do is head out to the range and see how this thing shoots. So I think we've done enough here in the studio, so I'll meet you at the range. All right, so we're out here at Big Springs, and it is super windy as always. If it's not windy, it's not Big Springs, I guess. Yeah. But that's okay. We're out here on the 500-yard range, and we're going to be shooting our LMT MARS-H. And I do have a trigger cam, so y'all will be able to see what I see through the optic. And Steve's going to spot for me, so let's start shooting. So we're just going to start at the 100 and work our way out to the 500. And I have my Kestrel here with applied ballistics, so we'll be able to know that drop. So you'll be able to see in the optic what my holds are, and we'll go from there. So obviously the 100 is a dead hold because that is our 0 distance, and we'll go hot. Steve, I'm going for the 100.
Yep. That sounds pretty good.
All right, nice. Jumping to the 200, shouldn't be much of a difference. 0.42 mil. So, all right, we got our 200, and I'll just hold at the upper third-ish. All right. Now for the 3 and the 300. Now we got to start holding some stuff. This is 1.17 mil, and I have no idea what the wind is doing down there because there's a cut in the berm, but that's okay. So what did I say? 1.17. All right, so we'll hold that. There we go. Nice splash on the top corner. How's that looking, Steve?
It was a hit.
Yep. All right. Now.
Hit though. Everything's shaking too much.
Yeah, I think I hit the top corner of it. Held a little high. All right, so we're going for the 400 silhouette. That is a 2.15 mil hold. All right.
Yep.
Any call on that, Steve? I'll send another. I heard the hit. Can't see where I'm hitting though.
I can't see either.
I'm gonna go for the head of that one, 2.15. Yeah, I saw a splash on the right side of the plate. So that wind, that makes sense for what the wind's doing. So I'm gonna hold a little bit more to the left. Yeah, I saw the splash. I just can't tell where they're hitting. I'm gonna go aim a little lower. Same wind hold. Oh, I think that one, I think those are under. Or to the right. Let's see one more.
Hard to see in the scope.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was way left. Okay, I'm holding way too far now.
You got more magnification there, dude.
Yeah, I see it shaking. I know I'm hitting it. Let's just jump to the 5. This is a 3.26 hold.
All right.
I'll just hold center. No call.
No call.
I'll send another. .26. I'm gonna aim a little lower. Oh yeah, okay. I saw the dirt fly.
Any call on that?
No call.
Okay.
It's too hard to see in those weeds.
Yeah, this wind is absolutely wild. We got a crazy crosswind down there, and it's blowing in like random gusts through that cut in the side of the berm. I'm gonna load up a few more rounds, and we'll try that 5 a few more times. 500.
Like they just disappeared. Oh,
Yeah, that's impact.
yeah, I saw it move. I didn't hear it.
I heard it.
I sure didn't see any
I'm
splatter.
gonna send another. Headshot.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, the dope's right. That wind died down right when I squeezed the trigger. That's perfect. All right, so this gun definitely shoots. Actually, I'm gonna go for the 6-inch plate at the 5. Just, I doubt I'm gonna be able to hit it in this wind, but let's see what we got.
Oh, high and left.
Yep, I see. Good call.
Keep shooting at the dirt. I can see that. Little high, little left.
Okay,
About 11 o'clock.
I'm gonna hold bottom right corner. Ah,
Left and a little low. Still left, I think.
yeah, okay. I'm gonna hit it.
Left.
I'm gonna hit it. There it is.
Yeah.
Finally. Okay. It's hard to, it's crazy what that wind's doing down there, but yeah, so Mars-H, I mean, it was, the group at the 500 is definitely on, and overall just a really good solid shooting gun, and we were able to get impact on the 6-inch plate at the 500, so I'm happy with that. So yeah, we'll have to bring this gun back out when it's a little less windy and really see what it can do. All right, so there we go. Overall, I'm really happy with how it shoots. Like I said, we got to get back out here and whenever it's a little less windy and just really push it to its limits and see what it can do. But you know, Steve did a great job at spotting, especially on that 6-inch 500 plate. We were able to get a good impact on that one, nice and easy. So we had to walk it in because of the wind, but it was great. Overall, LMT MARS-H, really, really good gun. Really happy with it. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know, whatever, feel free to post them down below. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so that you get notified for more content just like this. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.